Chapter.
A long campaign is now...
This is the car market in Mogadishu.
NATO's military success against
many Western nations.
This is On Assignment.
Hello and welcome to On Assignment, taking you around the world with our dedicated VOA reporters. I'm Philip Alexio.
And I'm Alex Villarreal. Coming up, fleeing the fighting in northern Iraq, VOA was there and saw the plight of the refugees firsthand.
2014's been a dangerous year for reporters worldwide. We'll hear personal accounts from our VOA colleagues.
And how do you make money the old-fashioned way? You print it, of course, on a very big machine.
Well, I like the sound of that. Time to cash in our chips and go on assignment.
Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis have fled attacking Islamic State militants in recent weeks. The semi-autonomous Kurdistan region in the north has become a haven for many refugees, including those from Syria's civil war.
Security for the refugee camps in the region is being provided by Kurdistan's Peshmerga military. VOA's Jeffrey Young traveled with the Peshmerga while reporting from the area recently and tells me about it. Let's take a look. Jeffrey Young, you were embedded with the Peshmerga military in Kurdistan. And so how long were you with them recently, and where did you go and what did you see?
I spent an entire day with the Peshmerga out on security patrol. But all the time that I was in Kurdistan, about a week and a half, the Peshmerga were constantly around us. They provide security and order. They are providing the protection for the Kurdistan region against the Islamic State, against any incursion by any insurgents. And they're a formidable force, but they're woefully underarmed.
What are the conditions like on a trip like that?
I was in an armed vehicle. I was piled in with a bunch of Peshmerga soldiers, and we were out on the streets of Kirkuk and in the surrounding area on a security patrol.
Okay.
We did not see actual combat, but 25 kilometers south of my position on the road between Kirkuk and Tikrit, there were other Peshmerga units engaged in active combat against elements of the Islamic State. So my particular unit that I was embedded with was not directly involved in combat, but combat was very close by.
And you also went to some of the oil fields that they had taken back from ISIS, is that right?
Absolutely. And this is the revenue stream for a possible state of Kurdistan.
Kirkuk in northern Iraq has fabulous oil wealth. It is an ethnically divided city. For years, Kurdish, Arab, and Turkmen factions fought each other. Then, insurgents including the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL, unleashed their terror. In June, Kurdistan Regional Government Peshmerga troops, reputed to be some of the toughest fighters in this region, moved into Kirkuk to restore stability and to protect the oil beneath it.
And President Barzani, the president of the Kurdistan Regional Government, has made it clear that independence is his goal. And he doesn't mean sometime far in the future. He's talking pretty soon.
You went to a refugee camp as well, right?
Yes, I went to Camp Kaiser, which is about 40 kilometers west of Erbil.
And what did you observe over there?
A massive humanity that had been driven in terror from Mosul, from Tal Afar, from places all over northern and western Iraq.
Thousands of refugees live here in Camp Kaiser. They settled here in blistering heat with the few things they carried from home as they fled the militants of the Islamic State in the Levant or Syria's civil war.
And Kurdistan opened its borders and said, we will take in these people. The Kurdistan Regional Government said, we will work with the UN High Commission with Refugees, with UNICEF, with other people, with NGOs. There's now a massive number of refugees and internally displaced people. According to the UNHCR, there's roughly 1 million refugees and 2 million IDPs, internally displaced persons. And now they're massed in a number of camps in the Kurdistan region.
Describe what the conditions are like.
Camp Kaiser is in an open, barren area. There's not a tree, there's not a twig, there's not a drop of water, there's nothing. It's just open, barren space. These are tents set up in the blazing sunshine, in the heat. When I was out there, it was 52 degrees at Camp Kaiser the day that I was there. Typically, at this time of the year, it's been 45 to 50 every day. You stay out in the sun, and you burn from the heat and from dehydration.
Are the Kurds just going to welcome them in?
These people, most of these people, want to go back to where they came from.
They do want to go back.
I had a man who was maybe 70 years old and was huddled in the shade of his tent, who told me, all I want to do is just get to Najaf.
Terrorists drove us out of Talafar with bombings. We want to go to Najaf, but there's no way to get there. We spent all our money already.
The UNHCR and other organizations have done their best to provide the basic essentials for the survival of human beings.
VOA's Jeffrey Young reporting from Iraq, just one of the countries where the Islamic State has been wreaking havoc. The group is also active in neighboring Syria, where it beheaded American James Foley, one of more than 80 journalists kidnapped while covering the Syrian conflict.
VOA correspondent Sharon Bain is no stranger to the danger of working in conflict zones. Sharon has herself reported from Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Egypt. Here, she talks with me about Foley's killing, which was carried out on video. But first, let's take a listen to VOA Director David Ensor addressing this execution, which we can only describe as shocking.
This is an absolutely tragic and senseless killing of an innocent man who was just doing his job.
There's been some controversy about it, about the media showing the images, showing the video. Some people seem to feel that it's just furthering the Islamic State's message. As a correspondent yourself who's reported in conflict zones, what do you think?
I understand the sort of controversy about it because, yes, you want people to know this is a brutal organization. This is what they're capable of. That people need to know, the public has a right to know, and they have a need to know that this is a really terrible, terrible organization. These are the things they do to innocent people. Foley was an innocent journalist. He wasn't taking sides. He wasn't a combatant. And I think I can see how some people would say, yes, we need to show this. On the other hand, there are those who say, yeah, this is promoting their cause. They're showing, we can do this. They're showing their power over others, and that it was just, actually promoting their cause internationally. The Islamic State has a fantastically strong social media and media component to their campaigns. And they posted this on YouTube. Now, YouTube tried to take it down, it popped back up. It was posted on Twitter. They tried to take it down, it popped back up and popped back up and popped back up. And you can see that they're actually pushing it very hard through media. And that has to be taken into account. That should be considered. Why are they doing that?
Has the role of wartime correspondent become more dangerous?
I've been doing this for about 30 years, and I think it has become much more dangerous, much more dangerous. And as I was saying, in the days where you could throw up your hands and say, I'm press, I'm media, and nobody would touch you, they'd let you go, that's gone. Now when you're press and media, you might as well walk around with a target on your back. You are going, people actually do want to, people actually use them.
Yeah.
Well, because I think, as what happened with Jim Foley, you can put an immense amount of pressure on a government when you're showing one of its nationals being slaughtered on camera. This presents an immense amount of pressure on any government. There are no clear front lines anymore, especially in these kind of, what I would say, guerrilla wars. You don't have that anymore.
Now, this message from the Islamic State, the title of the video was A Message to America. What is their message, and how is the country responding?
What is their message? It was a brutal message. I think what they were trying to do was put pressure on the U.S. government, say, if you don't do this, we're going to do this. I don't think the United States has ever succumbed to that kind of pressure. And after this video was released, when they said, if you attack us anymore, we have another journalist that we're also going to execute. After that video was released, the U.S. had 14 more airstrikes around Mosul Dam, which is a dam that the militants took and then have lost to Kurdish forces. So it doesn't seem to me that their message
is going to have their desired
effect. Exactly. I think, the U.S. they didn't respond, but they continued with their airstrike.
You had the chance to talk to an official with the Committee to Protect Journalists, which has been very outspoken about the case of James Foley and other journalists like him who have been held captive. What did she say, and what needs to happen now?
What she said was that, along the lines of what we've been talking about, is that journalists, unfortunately, have become pawns in geopolitical games, and that this should not be allowed. Journalists should never have to be in that position. And she also pointed out that Syria is one of the most dangerous places in the world for journalists. They have had many, many journalists killed. 80 have been kidnapped. 20 are still missing, some of them in the hands of the militants. And it is a horribly dangerous place. What she has said is that all journalists have to be aware of the risk. And news organizations have to be aware of the risk that their journalists are taking in order to bring the news to the world. And that there has to be more attention paid to that also. And it's not an easy job.
It is certainly not an easy job. Our thanks to Sharon and all of our VOA correspondents and freelancers working for us in some of the most challenging environments in the world. Bashar Fahmy, a reporter for VOA's sister organization Al Hurra, has been missing in Syria since August 2012.
All right, time for a short break, but when we come back, we'll hear more about reporting from a conflict zone, this time in Ukraine. You're watching On Assignment. As the conflict between pro-Russian separatists and Ukrainian forces continues in eastern Ukraine, some efforts toward peace have taken place. After a recent summit in Belarus, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko says a roadmap for ceasefire talks will be prepared soon. VOA video journalist Todd Grosshans has just returned from Ukraine and joins me now. And Todd, you went to Kiev with correspondent Gabe Joselo,
right.
And you traveled throughout Ukraine. But what is it like in the capital? What's the atmosphere like now?
Oh, Kiev is a beautiful city. It's about 3 million people, and you wouldn't know that there was anything going on, any kind of a conflict going on further east at all. Mm-hmm. They're just going about their business. There's really a lack of tension. Everything seemed normal.
Everything's sort of pretty much normalized, at least in the capital.
Exactly.
And then you ended up going to the town of Kramatorsk, which is in the east, but you saw some evidence of some recent fighting there.
Right, we did. We hopped on a train. It was about 6-7 hours east to Kramatorsk, and that had been retaken by Ukrainian militaries a couple months before. So there was a lot of evidence of fighting in Kramatorsk. There were a lot of buildings pockmarked with gunfire, a lot of structures basically destroyed.
And what sort of things did you find out? I mean, who did you talk to?
Well, we talked to people on the street basically, and Kramatorsk. There are suspicions by Ukrainian authorities and military that there's still kind of a lot of pro-Russian separatist loyalties going on in this city. A lot of people with those kind of loyalties.
And then now you also, I guess you traveled further and you actually went into the Donetsk province.
Well, Kramatorsk is actually in Donetsk province.
Okay.
We went even further
in,
towards the action, so to speak,
right.
and to a checkpoint in Debaltseve.
Right.
And that's where we actually saw some activity. There was, it's a small checkpoint run by, there's not a lot of Ukrainian military troops there that we could see. Mm-hmm. There was a destroyed gas station and lots of other evidence of recent fighting there. And then we heard this crackle of automatic machine gun fire and turned around, and these two suspects of pro-Russian separatist loyalties, they were suspected of anyway,
right.
Were being arrested, basically. They were trying to apparently sneak around this checkpoint.
Now, was that pretty much most of the, I guess, some of the firepower you were around? Were you around anything else?
Well, no. I mean, we witnessed all of that. We didn't, we didn't really see any more of that kind of actual military action.
Right.
Somebody shooting at somebody. Mm-hmm. But we did see, for instance, this is a checkpoint. They're stopping cars coming out of Luhansk, which is another area, a hotbed of activity, pro-Russian separatist activity. But there's also a lot of people on foot. This one guy, shirtless, shorts, flip-flops, comes straggling up the road. And the troops there, the Ukrainian troops, didn't like the way this guy looked for some reason, I mean, apparently it was some tattoos or other body markings that led them to believe that this guy was, pro-Russians.
So did they arrest him, or
they didn't arrest him, but they stopped him and they were talking to him at great length.
So there's a lot of that going on, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously at various checkpoints. I mean, this is what they're there for.
Right.
You know, they want to make sure that these folks are not going where they don't belong.
Well, VOA's Todd Groson's just getting back from Ukraine, so maybe we'll be sending you back there sometime soon.
Hey, I'll go.
You ready to go?
Go. Beautiful country.
All right, VOA's Todd Groson's. All right, time for a break, but coming back on the other side, we're going to make some money, literally. You're watching On Assignment.
The U.S. dollar is the world's leading reserve currency, so of course it has to be trustworthy and distinctive.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the job of the government agency that has been printing American banknotes for more than 150 years.
VOA's Julie Tabot went to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to see firsthand how U.S. money is being made. And in this On Assignment Rewind segment, Julie tells Rebecca Ward about what she saw at the Bureau.
We didn't get to see every room because some of the rooms where the bills are actually inspected is off limits to everyone, at least from the outside world. But what struck me immediately upon getting there, the first room, was kind of quiet. There were a few machines going. So it was more sedate than I thought it would be. It is obviously very high security areas that they have to be in. They're handling money at pretty much every stage. But everything is also very mechanized. So even though there are some elements that remain from years back, 150 years or more, a lot of that obviously negates having to have a lot of people on the job.
Bureau Director Larry Felix says creating a United States banknote from start to finish is a very complex process.
It looks like ink on paper, and it is ink on paper, but there are extraordinary amount of systems that are on that banknote.
During the first stage of printing, the background color is applied. Next, the notes are pressed into inked, engraved plates. This intaglio technique gives bills their distinctive texture.
What U.S. currency is very different is, that makes it different than other banknotes around the world, is it has this distinctive feel. And part of that's also because it's made with linen and cotton. So it makes it a little bit more nice to the touch than, say, if it was just all cotton. Also, with the new $100 bill, that's an example of where they've used new technology to incorporate security features that make it even harder for counterfeiters.
Let's talk about that $100 bill, though, because a few years ago they did change, like Jackson is all of a sudden a little bit bigger than he used to be on the bill. But the $100 bill looks really different, has a yellow color, which is I've never seen before.
You know, what's interesting is in my conversation with Treasurer Rios, she mentioned that at the same time they want to keep the banknotes consistent. They want to keep it so that it's user-friendly and that people identify it right away. So certain features they've kept. So Benjamin Franklin's still on it, but he's more to the side. There is a 3D ribbon that she talks about, a blue 3D ribbon, and when she holds it, you can see that it's like a hologram, but she said far, far more sophisticated than a hologram. And then there's a little inkwell in gold, the bottom right-hand corner. And when you move that back and forth, you see a $100 bill and I believe it's a bell that goes back and forth. But also, keeping in mind that they're trying to also make it user-friendly, there's also on the back the denomination of the $100. The actual number is bigger and it's gold. So it's very prominent, and so someone who is visually impaired can take a look and see right away that it's, the $100 bill.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the history. First of all, I'm curious, how does one get on a U.S. banknote?
Well, you have to be dead nowadays.
Okay, well.
You didn't used to have to. Obviously, Abraham Lincoln is on the banknote, and he was on it while he was still alive. Treasurer Rios pointed out that if you were to look through all our currencies from the past, it sort of does reflect a little bit of U.S. history.
What was the most surprising factoid you might have learned?
There there was a lot of interesting facts, but I think for me, the fact that over 60% or 60% of U.S. currency circulates overseas. So to think that American banknotes, 60% of them are circulating overseas was very striking. It's obviously a very popular currency, and a lot of people are trusting it and using it, sometimes in lieu of their own currency. So that was something that emerged from our conversation with Larry Felix that was somewhat surprising.
And how many bills, or what's the denomination, I guess, in pure numbers that they print every year?
Well, I just know that they print billions. Between the two bureaus, there's the Washington and also in Texas. Texas prints a little bit more than half. So between the two of them, millions every day, billions every year.
All right, and again, thanks to VOA's Julie Tabo. Phil, today the biggest U.S. Federal Reserve notes are only $100 bills, but about 100 years ago, your wallet could have held 5 or more types of currency in denominations up to $10,000.
Oh, imagine losing just one of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, speaking of money, lots of people want to be big money-making movie stars like Alex. And 20 years ago, after its birth in Lagos, Nigeria's Nollywood is one of the world's most prolific film industries.
Nigerian films, though low-budget affairs, are wildly popular in Africa. Heather Murdoch has the story.
Roll. Action.
As a generator hums on the roof, director F. Olu Michaels shoots his 14th episode of Remember Me, a soap opera about a girl with magical powers. He says since he got into the business 16 years ago, Nollywood has grown from a ragtag industry into a giant, producing thousands of films a year.
It has changed a lot. Bad jobs don't really make waves anymore. If you don't do a good job, you are nowhere. Bad jobs just die along the line, but good jobs are recommended and people keep talking about it.
But Nollywood also suffers from the same woes as the rest of Nigeria: widespread poverty, insecurity, and lack of electricity. As a result, Nigerian artists say their movies are made on tight budgets and films lack polish. At a fancy country club in Lagos, Olu Jacobs, one of Nollywood's most famous actors, says many movies are shot in only a week for less than $30,000.
We haven't got the money to prolong it for more than 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days maximum. Otherwise, you run out of money.
Back on the set of Remember Me, where the generator is still the only source of power, 21-year-old actress Bronze Manuels says Nollywood gives young Nigerian artists a chance to make it.
It's about the passion. It's about how much effort you can put into it. That's how I see it.
This is Manuel's first role after many auditions, but she says she does not want to be just another actress. She wants to be a Nollywood star. Heather Murdoch for VOA News, Lagos.
Okay, so there's a Nollywood, there's a Bollywood. So if you're here in Washington, what do they call that? What, a Wallywood?
I think it'd be Wallywood.
Washington, well, I don't know.
And I think you would make a fantastic Wallywood star.
And I couldn't disagree with you at all, because any kind of a wood star would make me happy because they make all the money.
Yeah, they do. Well, too bad we're out of time for Phil to audition for his new role in Wallywood. But we'll be back next week with a new show talking about Russia's new profanity law and what people think of it.
And in the meantime, go to Programs tab of the VOA News website at voanews.com and catch up on any of our episodes of On Assignment, or you can go to Facebook.
You can. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Goodbye until next time.